Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host, and by Georgia, what a week. This has been quite a week. And in most cases, the national issues when it comes to politics pretty well takes the lead role. I mean, you can't even look at a commercial today without seeing the local media. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in all due respect, the CNN and Fox almost look like they were doing in my older days or younger days. It looked like the Colgate Palmolive commercials. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, you get that newsy piece, but realistically, they're pushing and publishing the commercial.
Exactly.
It's all about the commercial. It's all about the money. And and I got to share that right up front with you because it's a very important piece, because in most cases you don't really get to hear enough about the issues. You just get sound bites. So a lot of times the guests don't have enough time to talk to really educate people about why they're there. Because in most cases they're there to actually either share and educate you about a particular issue that would be of benefit. I mean, that's the way I look at a commercial, to educate. But in the political arena, it's a whole different ballgame. They're there is to educate you and inform you about where do you buy it and what you should buy. So anyway, I just thought that was just something that just came across here, routine. And I've always been trying to make sense of the fact that I've been here over 20-some odd years, on the show aspect of it. And my format has always been about educating and informing, and it has a kind of a news bent to it too. But the one thing we do, we give the guests more time to educate them because they've got an issue. My guests always have an issue that there's a need, if you will, for this community television. And that's what we are. We're city. We're community television. That's what we are, community television. And many people, especially today, they don't read newspapers.
Right.
They don't look at the news. They don't have any background on anything in many ways. And so there's just a small group, if you will, and we call that social media. And that basically people that i.e. likes the idea that they now have access to their own media. And so consequently communicating what's on their mind and getting their points across to their friends, and are reacting to the national news, maybe, you know what I'm saying? But that's that's just a definition that I've sort of brought to you because I've been dealing in this stuff over 30 years, and so here I am today, and trying to say, well, okay, fine, this is why we're doing what they're doing, and that's one of the reasons why I cover politics here locally, because 2020 is going to be an important time frame, and the idea is to try to educate folks about what are the issues on the table for whatever exists within our environment. And from a local standpoint, we've got the governor's situation. We got locals. We got the largest city, the largest county here in the state of Oregon, Multnomah County, and the city of Portland aspect of it. And so a lot of things are happening. So by the time the ballots get out to the folks, in most cases, it's a last-minute thing from the politicians. They send flyers to your home and show you pretty pictures, and in many ways a lot of fake information on there. And it's the only time within politics that you can lie. You can say anything you want to say. So you can say anything you want to say, and the only reaction that the media will normally give you when you question about what they had said about you is that, do you want to put an ad in to counter it? And then that's their response. But then after the deal, if you won, then they may go back to you, especially if you didn't put an ad in. Then they challenge you that way. Then you do it one way or the other to save your position. But the person who lost, who might have still had a problem, they forget about them and just go on about their business. It's nothing. They could care less about you if you didn't. But they may have the issue and the solution, the real issue and the solution. The only problem with them is that they weren't able to advertise, or they advertised once and the other entity advertised 3 times. because they got a professional marketing person behind them. They put the copy together, and they got the backlog. They got to know who won, who voted the last time around. So again, like I said, I'm just spending a little time to just give you a little refresher course, if you will. To, some of this stuff that what I just shared with you comes through years of being a part of this process, and it's so important because we're living in some very important times. Very very important times. So pay attention, and like I said, I'll be mentioning this between now and May, because we're in the primary right now, and I'll be looking at the people who are running. I'm still inviting them all. We're not part of the national news aspect of it, as far as the national media that within our midst. And you got 2, 6, 8, 12, and whatever. But again, those are just sound bites. But you can get the full deal when you come down here at the Oregon Voters Digest, i.e., Open Signal. It used to be community television, but Portland Community. But unfortunately, we changed the name, as was the luxury idea of our mayor. I don't know what Open Signal means to me. I mean, it has all kinds of meaning, but community, local, Portland Community Television. The Portland community, that's what it was doing. And then actually you got the county there too. Okay, with that, let's go on with the show now. Now you got the introduction, a little feel. I think we got quite a show here now today, because we're gonna have two guests. My first guest will be basically talk about veterans. As you can see, I've always worn this attire, and I want to get your attention, if you will, because there are a number of veterans that have benefits out there that they're not basically requesting. And so the whole idea is that we're trying to educate them, inform them, the person, male or female, and or their spouses, because in most cases they have no ideas, and a lot of these guys are like myself, who were in Vietnam or whatever, with that PTSD and all kinds of things that are happening, and a lot of times we don't like to talk about issues that when we were in the service, especially if we were in a combat situation, and even to the families and stuff. And so consequently, they might need those services right now, but unfortunately, they don't have them. And so my portion is that I try to get the word in on an ongoing basis. And so what I've done today is that, and I've looked at a number of organizations that are actually providing that service, but one of which I've got a lot of respect for. This particular group are really, really working hard to get the word out that they in fact are in the business of filling out the paperwork and getting that situation together. Besides other things, that's the other thing. And what I mean by these other things, again, trying to get the word out that they do exist first off, and then by going to all the organizations they can find. And the rationale there is that you got to get something that sticks on the wall. You got me? And so they're out there doing that. And the other thing I'm impressed by them is the fact that it can be very costly. It's hard as heck to be volunteering when you still have to eat. You got to eat, because if you're not eating, you can't pay your bills, and all of a sudden you can't focus and concentrate on the job, and so consequently you don't have that many people volunteering, and you got a long line of people just waiting around all over the place. But the frustration, that's where a lot of times where the frustration comes from. The federal government basically has medical services and things like that, but once you get into the system, you have access. But a lot of times those entities that are kind of outside of that system are not getting paid. And I'm saying that to say that this particular individual I'm going to be talking about today, and he's going to get there. I'm putting all this stuff on the front end, but he can talk a little bit more about that. The NAB Vets, that's the group, the NAB Vets, and National Association for Black Veterans, Inc. It's a nonprofit organization, and it's not about, but my point, a lot of times the organization will highlight a particular philosophy or whatever in regards to what the organization is, but really that network is getting that information out to you and really responding to your needs, and the association is there kind of keeping you busy. That's a good piece, get the camaraderie, because that's another thing that a lot of vets tend to lack, being able to go out and meet people. And again, that's what I was somewhat impressed about this particular organization. And as you know, I too, sort of in in a voluntary basis aspect of it. That's why that's the other thing about my brand. I reach out to vets. And my way of doing it is basically getting you the information like I'm doing now.
Right.
Reaching out to vets through organizations like this. But that's what I do. And I will continue to do that. Just injecting it just like I'm doing it now and ongoing. So my guest today is Napoleon Hodges. And he happens to be the president of the organization, the NAB Vets organization. And I thought I'd invite him here, like I'm going to be inviting him on another occasion, because sometimes we're going to be talking about some of the services and some of the issues that he's faced with, and some of the activities that he's participated in. And I mean, just an awesome kind of a guy. Welcome, buddy.
Well, thank you for having me here, Bruce. And, I do want to mention one thing you mentioned in your introduction about the upcoming political season. Yeah. Although NABVETS is not a political organization, one thing I will say: if you don't vote, you have nothing to say, no complaints. Yeah. You can't do anything about it. So it's everybody's responsibility to vote. So other than that, we stayed out of the politics. But as far as NABVETS goes,
but before you get to that point, though, think about it. These folks are civilians now. So everything that I mentioned about who we are, a lot of veterans out there in politics, and they don't understand what that is. And that's the other reason why I got them at the table. They need to understand that too, because it's impacting their votes, i.e. not wanting to get there and whatever. And the only thing, like, I agree with you. The only thing about it is this: we are highly dependent upon whoever sits in that presidential seat to make sure we get those benefits, because he has to deal with a budget, and it's quite a budget that it takes to reach out to these vets right now. And so I want to make sure we be very clear. So the politics is a kind of a situation. If we don't understand it, to make sure that we are responding to the fact that we want those benefits, and they're due, and a lot of those guys didn't have them before. So consequently, we need those benefits, and politics has a major impact on what those benefits are. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, and it's we can't minimize the importance of.
Yes.
I mean, politicians, they hold the purse strings.
Yes.
And the purse strings are what makes the VA run.
Right.
And allows us to get our hospital benefits and our mental health care, et cetera. You know, so yes, I definitely agree with you on that.
Okay.
You know, now, with as far as NABVETS goes, we interact with military members and their families, and we help them get access to their medical, pension, and disability benefits. And they've earned these things through their military service. So a lot of times we've been coming across veterans who actually say, well, I don't want to take a handout, or I don't want to, be a burden on the system. No, you've already earned this because you sacrificed your time, your energy, your family, a lot of things,
and
parts of your bodies, life, right, to serve this country. And basically the country is, in a small way, taking care of you for what you've done. See, so it's not a handout, it's not a burden, it's something you've already earned. I always want to stress that, because you cannot let veterans think that, one, they're a burden on society, because basically society wouldn't exist without the veterans taking care of them and making sure they're protected. See, so NABVETS, that's one of the messages we have to give to veterans. And another thing too, we have to let them know that, okay, you are a veteran. Sometimes people don't think they're a veteran because they were in the National Guard, or they were in one of the reserve components, or they don't feel that they are a veteran because they didn't go to combat. That's wrong as well. So basically, we can sort out the technicalities behind who's a veteran and who has services, but it all starts with taking the step and applying for the benefits. And that's one of the things that NABVETS does. We are a congressionally certified organization, and basically we are certified by the Congress and the VA to take care of veterans' claims. So to get everything started, it's actually a very simple process. There's 2 sheets of paper, which is the Department of Veterans Affairs Power of Attorney. It's a 2-sheet of paper that you fill out with your information.
I had it here, but I just gave one to another veteran.
And of course, I didn't think to bring one in because I figured I would be talking about it.
Well, you'll be back again.
Yeah, I'll be back again.
Yep.
And then the other sheet is an intake form that our organization uses to make sure we are covering what you need covered. What do you want us to help you with? See, so on the VA side, we file the paperwork, we file the claims. When the VA says no, which they say quite a bit, we will put in a notice of disagreement, and we will dispute their decision, and we'll keep on fighting that, because basically it's important to us. Our organization doesn't have a numbers goal, and we're not paid by the veteran. We're not paid by anyone to do this. It's all volunteer agency. And basically we'll keep on plugging at something until either we get the decision that we feel is correct, or we go as far as we can, or in some cases we're going from request a hearing before a judge to get a decision because that we don't think has been properly reviewed or studied, or the veteran given the proper amount of attention. So we'll go before a judge to fight for their rights. Now, what we ask of the veteran is, don't give up. It's going to be a very slow process, and some people think it's going to take a month or two or whatever. No, it's a very slow process. So we take all the frustration, we do all the paperwork, and what we want to do is make sure that you come to us when you have questions, you come to us when you have complaints, you come to us when you have information, because that's our job. So I want to put this out at last count as of July 2018. NAVVET's working with 4 volunteer VSOs and people,
VSOs,
veteran service officers. These are the individuals who file the claims.
Okay.
With the 4 VSOs, and then someone answering the phones and filing paperwork, all volunteers, they have brought in over $20 million to the Portland metro area.
$20 million.
Yes, and this is something, we don't get a part of this. This is money that goes to the veteran, and basically it's for their service and their injuries, their disabilities, etc. See, so basically we've been doing this, and we're looking to get our updated figures so I can give you a more correct number, but still, $20 million between 2006 and 2018 is quite a figure. And basically, right now, unfortunately, we've suffered some losses within the office. Some of the individuals who started the organization, the outstanding individuals who were there from the very beginning, quite a few of them have passed on. So we're in the unenviable position of having to find other individuals to do this. The problem is, they don't have they're not financially set to be able to just volunteer and come down and do it like these gentlemen did. So I put together, as the executive director, I put together a budget to see how much it would cost to fund the positions. So we're looking for operational funding to keep us going, because we do a lot of work in the community we do a lot of work on the veteran side, but then NAVVET is also a 501c3, and we work in the community quite a bit. And you had mentioned about how we go out and engage with different organizations. Well, we are trying to be trying to make sure that people know that we're part of this Portland metro area and basically the Oregon community at large. But Portland metro area is very important that they know that we're there. So we participate in the Good in the Hood event, and this year we took it a little further. Instead of just being in the parade, we actually help with the traffic control. Next year we're going to step it further, and we're going to be in the parade, traffic control, and help out with the security, because it's an important community event. It's attended by a large number of local residents, and we want to make sure that we do our part to make sure that it's successful. And this is all volunteer. They don't pay us. We volunteer our time, but we get the exposure. See, so the phrase we're trying to eliminate is when people come to our table at an event and they say, well, I've never heard of you. And the thing about it is, we've been working quietly in the background. Right now, I'm trying to increase our exposure so people can know about us. And then they have to understand also, we're the National Association for Black Veterans Incorporated, the Portland chapter. But as far as who we help anyone who walks in our door. Now, back in the 60s when NAVVET was first started, the gentleman came back from Vietnam, and well, the other agencies didn't want to work with him, so being survivors like black people are, we started our own, grown into a national organization, all 50 states and Puerto Rico, and basically we're at the point now, you can get past the name, National Association for Black Veterans. Basically, any veteran that comes through the door, we're going to help them, and also in our membership, we have military members and their families, supporters of all stripes. So it's not just a black organization, even though we're very proud of what our heritage was and what we started, we will help anyone.
Well, you
And,
know, I've got to make that point in regards to that black veteran aspect of it. It's really some of us say I know from a historical standpoint. I think we might have been farther ahead had had the veterans. I mean, had our country and our educational system would have been educating folks along the way. The moment that former President Lincoln actually he integrated the military by allowing them to fight in the Civil War. That was the first big time doing that particular in the 1800s, and they were a very integral part of that piece. But unfortunately, through the years, we still indirectly
Exactly.
have not assimilated the fact that blacks actually participated in our wars here in this country from day
single
one.
conflict, every single
Every
one.
conflict, but they still haven't been recognized, and we're still playing the divide routine. I got to say it just straight up. We need to get it in our educational system, and unfortunately, that's not happening. I mean, I'm constantly making my point on it. It's a very important piece, you know, and so I want to make sure we get that point across that it still is an issue.
Yes.
It still is an issue, and it's really having, again. That's why I really appreciated you sharing with me a little bit more about the organization and your rationale for doing that, recognizing i.e. African Americans that participated by actually making that a part and parcel. Because I think that's what the founders were trying to do, again, to educate the public about the fact that blacks did serve honorably, big
Right.
time.
And one of the things that we've talked about within the organization is that, you will see Veterans Day or Memorial Day celebrations or specials on TV, and a lot of time you do not see any black veterans or veterans of color, period. So you would think that there was only one American citizen that was a patriot, and that's not the case. We've been patriots from day one, before we even was a country, and basically we've been participating all along. So I don't want to minimize that, but that's not our that's not the only
Right,
thing we're about.
right.
Like I say, we help anyone who walks through the door, but we're not going to deny our
Right.
history and our heritage.
Right.
So
You know, I might mention too, this is a good time to do this too at the same time. Just recently, a well-known veteran passed away, Colonel Bill Jenkins. Colonel Bill Jenkins. And Bill was a very active community person, but he was a colonel all the way around. I mean, this guy was a solid colonel. He was a former Marine, did the Vietnam, the whole 9 yards, and he passed away. And I just had the opportunity to meet him when I came here to Portland, Oregon. As a result of him, I was able to get, again, involved in community on boards and this, that, and the other. He just passed away, so I want to make sure that we recognize that he recognized. The other individuals that just passed away a while back, but not that long ago, was former city councilman Charles Jordan. A lot of folks didn't realize that he was in the military. He was in the Air Force. He actually participated in the military, but he was a city council person. You got me? And they kind of sort of eulogized him by naming a park after him, the Jordan Park up in North Portland. I was a little disappointed about that because he did some major things when he was a city council person. He's the one that created Pioneer Square.
no, really,
And
I
was
didn't
trying
know
to,
that.
Yeah, Pioneer Square. He was a guy because he was a parks commissioner, and at the same time, he basically put that whole piece together on those naming of the bricks. And that was his creation aspect of it. And but my point was that, in fact, I boycotted the so-called deal down in the North Portland at the parks routine because it was kind of like in the back of the bus type deal. He should have had a bus downtown at the old Pioneer Square. And then with a story about who he was. And then that would have educated, again, our citizens about who was the principal person that did this piece. Another famous individual, he's still here living right now, and he's a former Marine. He's a Marine. Judge Haggerty, he was a federal judge. He was on the bench. And when this gentleman by the name of Sirrah in southeast Portland, they identified him as black, and i.e. supremacists basically killed him with a bat. They killed him, and he was the judge that did all the trial for that here in Oregon. And the man got sentenced, big time. Well, I mean, this was a heavy. No one wanted to touch that case. He touched it, and he carried throughout the whole deal. Well known. And the thing I think about him when I say about how he was recognized when he got off the bench and he retired. When I saw the Oregonian, when they printed the article on him, they had him in there serving at the Benson Hotel when he was working, kind of like working there at the Benson Hotel with a serving tray. Not his uniform in the Marine Corps, because he was a lieutenant, because he came here, and indirectly, he was a recruiter when I came here. So indirectly, I sort of replaced him, But the bottom line is that this man was a Marine Corps. He was recruiting, and he was actually he was probably one of the most decorated military person here in the state of Oregon. Lots of history. Gave a lot to the state of Oregon. I mean, just representing that particular case was major. Putting his life on the line. Got me? I mean, it was some heavy stuff that during that particular time aspect of it. But he represented that person. And he went through that whole deal. So, and we've got many other folks that were well renowned here within our midst. It's just a matter of the guy who basically founded the NABVETS aspect of it, Brown. He had a lot of guts to get out there, and he walked a lot. I mean, I know he did, because I remember when he first came into my place when I presence. But he stayed with it. He kept it going. And as a result, to a certain degree, in a roundabout way, that's where that $20 million came through to his hand.
Right, because, when he was trying to get his benefit, retired lieutenant colonel in the Army, he couldn't understand the system, heard about NABVETS in Washington, in Seattle, and asked for their chapter here. And they said, no, would you like to start one? Instead of just saying no and just following his claim, he actually took the ball and ran with it.
Yes.
And basically he was the one. He was our founder.
Yes.
And he was the one who brought all of us together.
Right.
And it was very difficult when he passed last year. He passed in July of last year.
Right.
And we are still reeling from the loss because we still have people who call into the office wanting to speak
to see him. Yes.
Remarkable man. But like I say, he set the standard because he was one of the people that was able to volunteer as a VSO and work within the office.
Right.
I mean, he even recovered from a stroke and still went back to work.
Right.
And he kept the unit together.
Right.
So he did the VSO part, and then he worked the nonprofit side to connect NABVETS to the community. So we're carrying on that tradition.
Right.
We're definitely staying connected with the community, but you're right. We do owe it to him from the beginning.
Yeah. So there's a lot of famous dudes. In fact, we just recently had a situation where they had a ceremonial kind of a deal on recognizing Buffalo soldiers, but Moses Williams, who's buried in Vancouver, Medal of Honor winner. And but they did a deal, and I saw a piece in the Columbia newspaper. But the way they were eulogizing was as if to say, this man has been buried there a long time. The organization that represented him was in Portland. In fact, I just happened to have been president for about 4 years of that organization, and never recognized as Moses Williams. The fact that there was a Medal of Honor winners back in the old days. Indians War, all that kind of good stuff. But he was recognized that way. And it was just one organization, if you will, that was doing that. There was another gentleman another gentleman that was who had just passed away, who was a member of the Buffalo Soldiers, and their family was there. But at the same time, every military person, people don't realize this, but every military person who was black, from the day that Lincoln integrated the military, and he was a Republican, and integrated the military during that particular time to the date. Every black, and including to date, and those who are still in the service, are all considered Buffalo soldiers. Every branch of the service. But the way it was kind of depicted, that was not carried through. They didn't spend enough time on what Moses was all about. And it just so happened the person who brought that to the table was a young Eagle Scout.
Right.
Young Eagle Scout. Did you see that?
No, one of our members attended the ceremony,
Yes.
and she sent me a picture. Her name is Marquita. She sent me a picture of it, and I was at an event yesterday.
Yes.
The United Negro College Fund. It was a fundraiser.
Right.
And basically, I was approached by one of the powers behind the scenes in Oregon, and asked me. She said,
"What's this? Why is this?"
She asked me for a new business card because we had been together and connected a long time ago.
Right.
She didn't have my information, and she didn't send the information out soon, but she was very surprised that we were actually there. And I showed her a picture, and it had the Eagle Scout,
Right.
our member, you
Right.
know, and Marquita, thank you for sending that to
Right,
me.
right, right.
But basically, from now on, if something like that happens, she's going to try to make sure that we know about it.
Well, yeah, right. We're going to really know about it because, in all due respect, I mean, I'm going to throw this out to you. You can maybe tell the organization we need to get a flag detail and go down there and take a photo where at the tombstone, and,
But see,
and talk about that piece and share that with our young people in our school system when they're talking about Veterans Day and things of that nature, and get a speakers bureau,
Well, see-
speakers bureau to educate the schools, these young people.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. We had in the past NAVETS would, for example, we participated in the commemoration at the Willamette National Cemetery on Memorial Day,
Right.
And then we would leave there and we would go to the Korean
Right.
Memorial
Right.
and Vietnam Memorial over there by the zoo,
Right.
And then we go to Vancouver,
Right.
and clean up the stones and clean up the
Yeah.
grave sites
Awesome.
of our fallen.
Right.
So that is something that we've done in the past, and we're trying to get everything back together so we can start doing that on a regular basis again.
Right.
You know, so yes, we remember these things.
Right.
But for that young man, that Eagle Scout, to
Yes.
bring it up,
Right.
that was quite the
He
surprise.
did that. He
Yeah,
did that by himself.
Yeah.
He did that by himself. And then but it's really something is how, again, here we are. We've got folks who actually participated in these military wars, but they weren't given the opportunity to talk to their commander. I mean, to talk to their symbol, if you will, and their history.
Just out of curiosity, would your cameras be able to pick up the picture if I showed it on my phone?
Yeah, you got it. Real
Yeah, I
quick?
have it
Let's
on
see.
my phone,
We'll
so-
see if we can do it.
Yeah,
then
so-
we're gonna take a break because the bottom line is that we're gonna have you here ongoing. And why don't we do this? Why don't you get that, and we'll do a little memorial piece on that piece. In fact, I'll even try to contact that young scout, and maybe the mayor
Right.
from Vancouver, and have her come over just to make sure that folks know that this was some
'cause
serious
that
history.
would be something. Again, we were happy to be part of that,
Yeah.
but it was brought up by one of our members at our general membership meeting that happened every third Thursday,
Right.
over on the MLK in Killingsworth,
Right.
over at the Glorious Reflections old.
Right. That's where you
bookstore.
guys meet.
That's where our meeting
yeah,
is. So-
I'm a member of that.
and it just so happened somebody brought it up,
Isn't
and
that
we
something?
we didn't know that was
Didn't
going
even know
on.
it. Yep.
So we did,
Which is something else that needs to be
Right.
done. All those organizations need to be getting together. Anybody representing, if you will, in all due respect, focusing in African Americans that have participated in these wars. That's where I'm at. That's why I'm sitting here. That's why I participate in the organization and get a membership. Right? Nothing wrong with that, because people want to know.
And see, so I'd be happy to come back anytime because, besides the benefits piece, we do so much work in the community.
Yes, you do.
And we're connected with everyone that we possibly can because I share that same mindset. We should be all working together.
Yes.
Trying to unify our purpose, unify our goals, and basically accomplish some of the things that we want to
Exactly.
accomplish.
Exactly.
Educating the young, taking
Exactly.
care of our community.
Exactly.
Helping people who are in need.
Exactly.
So we're in like minds on that one.
Well, good. Well, maybe I'll throw something out to you. Maybe some of the folks out there that actually participated in the old organization, the Buffalo Soldiers of America, and maybe you can contact them and see whether or not you can get a representative. Get in touch with their chairman, their president, and yourself, and you come down and have him bring the photos, the memorial, and see whether we can talk about it. Then they can talk about about Morehouse. Morehouse was the guy that died, that passed away. But the fact of the matter is that he represents military folks, and
Right.
And I think it would be good to see working something out. Maybe work something out. Maybe that speakers bureau could be worked
so
out.
we, NAVETS, I can say we'd be honored to be part of that.
Okay, good, good,
and
good.
even to honor the young man who
Good.
brought it to everyone's attention.
Sounds
again,
good.
Too. Okay.
Well, we'll hook it up.
All right.
After this, maybe we'll get a call and you contact some folks. I will too. And maybe next week we can do a 30-minute piece on that too.
Okay.
Just like we're doing today.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, folks. We're going to take a short. Thank you very much, Nick. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to get with our second guest. Okay. Take care.
You are watching Oregon Voters Digest. This program can be seen again on these channels on these dates and times. Tell a friend.
Okay, are we on? Okay, we are on. Here is our second. This is the other part of our show for today, and I really appreciate that first part of the show, and we'll thank Nathaniel again for talking to those issues, and hopefully you will share this show. It's on YouTube. You got the word, share it and comment on it. You know what I mean? We really want to get the word out. It's very, very important during these particular times. I told you what I did. I started off by sharing with you the Portland Tribune. The Portland Tribune, this was the Thursday, September 19th issue. Thursday, September the 19th issue. And it's kind of interesting how I was looking at the front page here. It said, Band of Others, the gang's all here. And this was a whole deal about, and some of the branding was how Joey Gibson and those who orbit around patriot prayers have found meaning and thrills in violent right-wing extremism. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You got a First Amendment right. I mean, the bottom line is, in fact, someone had asked me basically whether this person was a white supremacist. I know he's an American. All this other business, what's the difference? The bottom line. And I went on to say, point blank, that as far as I'm concerned, I had the opportunity to meet with him and another group, if you will. And that's what we're going to be talking. I've been talking about giving them the opportunity to identify themselves and educate folks about who they are and their rationale for existence. And I'm going to be doing that today. But again, like I said, I do not see Gibson as a white supremacist. I see him. I know that he supports Trump. I know that. And in the article, you may want to pick up this article because as I read it, I mean, it doesn't even say that. But the thing about it is, it came from the Oregon Voters Digest. We did the show right off the bat to try to explain something, because I went down to the Justice Center several days ago, and while they were there, and the Antifa group were there, and the bottom line is that I was there and I met both groups, and from that point on, I've been interviewing them. I've interviewed Joy, and then I've interviewed my present guest today, which is Brady. We did this last week for about 30 minutes, and he still has more to say. And I got a gentleman on. We got a gentleman on the phone here too, who's going to be part of the deal. So we got a good 20 minutes to talk about this. And if they've not done enough, if you will, they will be here next week. And so what the bottom line is that we're going to spend some time and give them more than 3 minutes to explain themselves and get away with this branding in terms of how they've done things. I mean, this as far as I'm concerned, this was an insult. This just add fuel to the fire to an area that we don't want to go to anyway. We want to keep this thing positive. You know, give these young people an opportunity to exist. That's what it's all about. They are our futures, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this right now. And as far as activism is concerned. Okay. So with that, Brady, how you doing today?
Hey.
Good.
You mind putting this on speaker?
Yeah, we'll put it on speaker. Just put it right here. Just put it right.
Okay.
Put it right here. Let me
James,
see.
you there?
Let me
Hey.
turn it up. Let me turn it up, James. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing okay.
Okay. Let me see if I can get this thing up here. I want to get this thing up so I can see you. Okay, good.
Wasn't entirely prepared, but it's all right.
Okay, let's go. I got it. Okay. Speak up a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear us both?
Testing.
Turn your volume on too. Can you turn your volume on?
Me?
Yep. Can you turn yours on?
I can hear him.
On.
Yeah, but they don't hear him over here. I can't. For some strange reason, I'm not getting you. I'm not getting you like I want to.
I'm connected with my headset and
I don't know why am I not getting. I'm not hearing you like I'm supposed to be hearing you. But here we are. See, because I got it down. Oh, wait a minute. It's still on a. No, it's still on the deal here. Wait a minute.
like testing.
I can kind of hear him, but he's still kind of
Yeah,
faint.
we got it. Wait a minute. We'll get it. We'll get it. We're just trying to get it right. Okay. Can we hear in the studio? Can we hear him?
Testing.
How about now?
No, not here I am.
Can you hear me? You can't hear me, huh? Can you hear me in the studio?
No.
We can't hear you yet. We're not getting you. I'm not getting, and I've turned the volume
Here.
on.
Here, you have to unlock the phone.
Okay, yeah, okay, I got it. Oh, speaker's off. Wait a minute. How's the speaker off? Okay, how about now?
I can hear you loud,
Okay,
loud and clear, Bruce.
we got you. Studio, can you hear him now? Speak up, James.
Yes, testing, 1, 2, 3.
How about now, Jim? You okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. We got you, James. All right. Let's go on with the show now. Let's go. Let's do our thing. Okay, Brady, we're going to pick up where we left off, so to speak. And naturally, right off the bat, let's just get in and get them to the table with us and tell them that the fact of the matter is you got a different brand today. You're wearing green.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm showcasing the Demand Utopia mask.
Okay.
You know, some people might think the masks are intimidating, but I like to think this is the more silly version. You know, it's supposed to be lighthearted, friendly, approachable, I guess. The only part I don't like about it is the mouthpiece. I don't know. I mean, it's great if you want to eat a milkshake or some fries or something, but otherwise, you know, I think it might be better if you had a different version and covered that up a little bit.
Okay.
But, yeah, so, you know, if you're afraid of a bright green mask, I think you got a lot of fear and phobia issues personally, but otherwise, no, it's not supposed to be intimidating. Yeah, so I think last time we left off talking about the FBI. James was talking about the DSA listening session and how it almost seemed like the feds were sort of egging people on in some sort of strangely selective, biased kind of way. I think that's how me and James have kind of interpreted it. I'm going to talk a little bit, I guess, about my experience from the feds as the sort of observer. I've never really talked to the FBI. That's sort of a cultural thing, as well as like a thing that doesn't really help activists. So when James was still a part and following around Patriot Prayer or PDX Crew or Portland's Liberation or whatever you want to call it, I remember up in Vancouver, Joey was holding a Billy Wilson rally. And this is probably where we disagree, but, you know, I don't know what it is with Joey. And, you know, at first he began off with saying he was alt-right, then he tried to tone it down by saying he was alt-light. I think the fact is that you can be something akin to a white supremacist because, if you're not white, because you internalize racism. You can internalize racism. At that rally, Proud Boys were also holding their rally for Billy Wilson, but it was a separate rally, no more than maybe 6 to 8 blocks away. And me and a small group of friends were there trying to meet up. I was dressed in black. I didn't have a mask on, but I had black sunglasses on, sort of like I do now. I accidentally walked into the park where they were gathering a little bit. When I realized that, you know, what was happening, I kind of walked out. Luckily, I didn't get too far or too close into them. And while I was trying to meet up with some comrades or friends of mine, however you want to define it, I got identified as Antifa more or less right away by Vancouver police. So later on, when I meet up with my friends and we try to get close to Joey's rally, we kind of realize on a subtlety that we may be kind of followed by the cops. There was, I guess, a Joint Terrorism Task Force agent in a vehicle with tinted windows. I can't remember if he had clearly cut plates or not. That was something that was in the back of my mind, but something I wasn't really immediately worried about, because as soon as we got close to Joey's rally, we had masks on, black balaclava style or bandana styles, if you will, and a Proud Boy noticed us and he called somebody over, and you know, we were like taken aback by this because, you know, we thought we could kind of get close and just sort of film or maybe talk to some people, I don't know, take photos from afar. Joey said there was an Antifa there, but that's a lie probably by omission. So we ended up getting stalked by these two Proud Boys for about 6, 7, maybe 12 blocks, but our saving grace was actually the cops, believe it or not. It was that Joint Terrorism Task Force or cop riding around in that vehicle sort of overlooking the entire situation. So he was acting as a deterrent against the Proud Boys, and it was just our saving grace, I guess, from the Proud Boys, who are also stalking us. And from my experience with the FBI, even at Cider Riot, I was there. 2 blocks down the road, there was about 10 DHS vehicles. So I don't know what that tells you, but that tells me that these cops are very selectively biased, and I don't really know what to make of it sometimes. It's very sketchy at best. They could have intervened in that Cider Riot brawl. They could have possibly gotten a little bit closer and made themselves known, just like at that rally for Billy Wilson, and could have basically sent a message to these 2 factions like, hey, we're here, don't do anything stupid, don't fight. Or they could have blocked the street altogether with their vehicles, which I guess would have been more risky. But the excuse, I guess, looking back on it, was we cannot incite the crowd. We don't want to accidentally incite violence. Well, by doing nothing, violence already broke out. And that actually was because of Joey. I got Joey on film, along with a few other people, who was actually egging the violence on. He was saying, out in the open, practically yelling it, this is the way it's supposed to be, while encouraging a sort of high school arena-style fist fight between one of his members and Antifa. James, what do you make of that? Does that sound right? Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, what I would add to that is that day where you had, forgive me here, my mind is blank with the dates because it was something every day with these people. It was the day that you had the counter protest of the protest after the meeting house on Burnside got tagged and graffitied, and so decided riot and all that. And so you got the one group on the one side of the street that's their house is on their meeting place house, and then on the other side of the street is just other random businesses and Haley's people. Well, they started pushing for the back, but see, I had my own strategy that day because at that point I had not traveled with the group. I went in a completely different car no one would recognize, and took another journalist with me because I was interested in getting the best possible footage for KXL, which I did not believe I had the capacity to do if I was just out running around the street as myself, because by that time it had already been all over town and in the paper that I was a Patriot Prayer sympathizer and I was on a list of do not serve, for all Portland restaurants and all this kind of stuff. And I laughed about it. I found most of this stuff humorous because I kept thinking, little do they know that, this is just a job, and how incredibly ridiculously liberal my voting history in Los Angeles has been. But when these things would happen, so that day I did not tell them where I was going, but I was right there in the middle. I was basically hidden in plain sight because I was in a car no one recognized in that parking lot right there next door to the little restaurant that's directly across the street from the house in question. And I backed in so that I could just sit my professional camera on the dashboard of the car and capture whatever it is that went down. Well, nothing really noteworthy went down that day. Plenty of things did, but then again, to put it into the context of the day-to-day goings-ons of Portland, Oregon, it was kind of a slow day, is in my perception of how that turned out. Yeah. What I did notice, however, was we were told that the feds, even though we had their approval, and even though, it should be a great thing, because this is what their story always was, they weren't there in the capacity that they said, because we would have seen them and recognized them. But what we did see were other Fed cars, which I cannot identify. All I know is that they had Fed plates, and I don't know how to describe them other than all identical looking black Suburbans that looked like they had just been driven off of a showroom floor and had not even had a chance to get dirty. And, there was a guy inside with a suit in each one. And so who knows? Maybe this is Department of Homeland Security. Maybe this is this, that, the other. Well,
you can't really
after
tell the
this
difference.
Sorry?
You can't really tell the difference sometimes.
Well, right, because that's the problem with the intel agencies is they're so compartmentalized that one doesn't know what the other one's doing. They actually don't share information. They compete for grants and things, and then as a result, you have these agents that are so stupid they trip up over each other and expose each other's presence at a place, and then they're the ones that have, in effect, doxed themselves, not this person or that person or whatever. And another thing that I noticed that was extremely alarming about that day was not one of the more noteworthy Haley Adams is going to come antagonize poor victim Antifa as it was generally touted day to day. That was sort of like should we, shouldn't we, okay, sure. And we go, and we were my phone had frozen, and I was relying on it in the car I was in to get down there to Burnside because I was not at all, I was new to Portland and did not know my way around, so I had to rely on, of course, GPS. And it froze while I'm waiting for it to reboot. The other person that was in the car with me is looking on Twitter. Now, she's looking for an address, but what she instead stumbled onto was there was about, at least that we observed, approximately, is 3 or 4 different accounts on Twitter that were giving live up to the minute play-by-play calls on where the car carrying Haley was currently at in the city, where the car currently carrying Joey Gibson was in the city, and where the car currently carrying myself was. So I, had the realization I'm no longer undercover
And that's
right
the
now.
power of
And
technology.
it's obviously, yeah. So, and I get to thinking, well, now wait a minute, because very few people knew about this, and then the last thing they would do, as far as the profile of people that you're dealing with, that I was dealing with at Patriot Prayer and Haley Adams and Company, is it's not their style. They don't like to tattle on themselves to provoke a response before it happens. They like to go do the deed, whatever that may be, pull the stunt, and sit back afterward and revel in the publicity in it or whatever. Well, what were we there for that day specifically? This incident about how allegedly Patriot Prayer goons or what have you, as the story went over in the middle of the night, and they tagged not only the Antifa house but also Patriot Prayer. Excuse me.
It was the IWW.
The Cider Riot.
Oh, yeah,
And
that too.
We got James, we got about a minute and a half right now, and then don't get me wrong,
okay.
you even have to go
Okay,
on,
so
going on closing, and we're going to be back here next week anyway.
Okay, so just to wrap up real quick, I was with Patriot Prayer and Haley Adams and all the faces and all of them. They were all there the night before in question at this party in Vancouver, so I knew for a fact as the journalist that it was not them. Then I see Antifa reacting in a town where the media supports them and is saying, poor them, here's the victim relief fund, and yet they're still compelled to make statements. It wasn't them. It was not some false flag. And I'm thinking, wait, there's still, why would they? So in other words, I think the feds did it. That is my theory, to provoke the two, because that's all they've been doing all along is provoking the two to fight.
We don't have enough transparency either way to find out, and that's part
Right.
of what I'm about.
Why
We
do you
need
think it's meant to
transparency
be that
from the
way?
government.
So
We
you
need
can't find
accountability.
out.
We need to hold them responsible when they can. This is the FBI. They're supposed to look
Well,
out for civil liberties.
you know, the FBI, I just learned, dragged me off and threw me into a gulag unconstitutionally for 30 days for bringing up my family's name in the context of an ongoing federal investigation into their management of their assets. We'll leave it at
Running out of
that.
time.
It looks like we're running out of time. I'll tell you what, now I think we're going to maybe take the whole hour next time. Is it okay? All right, James? Okay?
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, all right then, fine.
You know I always love talking to you, Bruce.
I appreciate it. All right, James, same here. Well, actually, everybody does. We want to find out. We want to get down to the root matter of this, the bottom line, so we can just move on with our lives in a positive way. Okay, again, this is Bruce Broussard, Oregon Voters Digest. See you next week for the whole hour. Take care. Bye.